When was the first dollar made? 'Cause that had to be a sick feeling.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It was incredible. But the whole year and a half before we made our first dollar, we would just put out content, and it was not good content because you're just not good until you get all the practice. Like, you have to do it to learn.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Chris's Secret Podcast. I am impressed that you found it. I am super fired up about this episode that I have for you all here today. I'm interviewing Mark and Sarah from Mobility Duo. So they are a husband and wife combo that is running a company called Mobility Duo, and Mobility Duo's sole focus is to help snowboarders and other outdoor, lovers, but primarily snowboarders, from injury prevention and also recover from injuries so that you can stay out on the slopes, shredding the powder until you're in your 70s and hopefully even longer. You might recognize them from their massive social media following. They have over 165,000 followers on Instagram, another 14,000 followers on TikTok, 4,000 subscribers on YouTube, and they just started a Threads account as well, so you can check them out there too. If you want to find them, their handle is at Mobility Duo. I've also tagged all their accounts in the description below this podcast, so you can also check them out there. I've also added a link to their website as well. I highly recommend you, at a minimum, follow them on social media, but also check out their website. They're doing a lot of cool stuff there. They have Snowga classes, which is basically snowboarding yoga classes, hence the name. They also are selling snowboarding yoga mats, so they have like the snowboard on the yoga mat, super cool stuff. They have resistance bands. They have a cool like PT fitness training program that they have on the website as well. A lot of cool stuff, so I highly recommend you guys go check them out. I actually found them originally on Instagram. This was a few years ago when I was a snowboard instructor. I kept coming home from doing my snowboard instructing, and I would be complaining to my roommate. Shout out to Connor Johnson if you're listening. I kept complaining about my knee hurting, and he's like, "Dude, you gotta check out these people's Instagram page. They have a bunch of cool like yoga videos and PT training exercises, so that hopefully it'll help your knee not feel as bad when you're coming home, so I don't have to listen to you complaining." And sure enough, I was doing the exercises, following along in some of the yoga classes, and it really does work. Like, their stuff is really good. So I highly recommend you, at a minimum, go check them out on Instagram. They have a lot of cool stuff if you're into snowboarding. In this episode, we talk about how Sarah and Mark first met and their first date, which I've got to say is an absolutely epic first date. I was very impressed with you, Mark. That was a well done first date. I don't know how many girls would have, or just people in general, would have taken you up on that first date, but sure enough, Sarah did. So you're here to tell the tale. So you'll definitely want to stick around and listen to that part of the episode where they're talking about how they met and their first date. It is bananas. Also, you'll want to make sure you stay tuned until the end of the episode where they talk about how they actually got a patent for their yoga mats. Super fascinating stuff. I've never really looked into or talked to anybody about patents, and it's super unique and interesting how they did it. So definitely want to check out the end of the episode where they talk about that. We also dive into their personal life. They're actually expecting a baby here in the next snowboarding season, so we talk about that and how they're prepping for that, and then also what it's like to run a business with your husband or with your wife. So it was super cool, just getting some insight into how they're running their business and how they go about structuring their days so they don't drive each other insane. So, with all that said, and without further ado, I am so excited to present to you today Mark and Sarah from Mobility Duo. Here we go. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having us, Chris.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Excited to have you all on. I guess my first real question for you all is, what is your favorite part about snowboarding, the snowboarding community, and what made you guys fall in love with the sport of snowboarding?
Yeah, for me, I started snowboarding when I was 18, and it was all about the community. it was all about the people that we were able to ride with and just the amount of energy and everyone was just so stoked. Like, just being up there, trying new things, falling, people would laugh. Like, it was just such high spirits of an activity that it kind of just hooks you.
Yeah, no, I agree. I love snowboard. I've been snowboarding not actually I went snowboarding for the first time when I was a kid. I had a snowboarding babysitting gig for a little bit, which was like the greatest thing ever.
Cool.
I would just take some kids snowboarding. But yeah, no, I've been a fan ever since. I actually was a snowboard instructor for a little bit. So yeah, done a little bit of all. What about you, Mark?
Nice.
I grew up in Guam I moved there when I was pretty young. I moved away when I was like 6, so I always gravitated towards like that culture, the beach culture and board sports specifically. I started skateboarding from a young age, like BMX biking, and I started snowboarding at like 15, just following my brother's shoes and footsteps. And I don't know, I just gravitated towards that board culture, and I really loved it. And I think being outdoors, being active, and I didn't really learn about the culture per se until later on, but I just thought it was so fun. The culture was amazing. It was quote unquote cool. When you're going through that phase as a teenager, and it's one of those things that stuck. It wasn't until I met Sarah though that I really dove into the essence of snowboarding and really embraced the culture and all that good stuff.
Awesome. No, I love it. Yeah, snowboarding, I feel like half of the fun is the culture, just getting up on the weekends. Also, nothing is better than a powder day. It's like I live for powder days. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Now, how did you all meet? Because I don't know your all's backstory of how you all met each other. So how did you guys first initially meet?
Yeah, so I am a licensed massage therapist. I have been since 2014. And then Mark is a doctor of physical therapy. And when we met at the time, he was the PT aide at a physical therapy clinic. And I was the massage therapist at that clinic. And I started working. And he was training me on some aide duties because I was going to take over while he went back to school. And he was like, "What do you like to do for fun?" And I was like, "Oh, I like snowboarding and rock climbing and soccer and all these things." And he was like, "Oh, me too, me too, me too." So after that, he was like, "Do you want to go skydiving?" And I was like, "Sure." And the next day he came in. I'm thinking we would talk about it a couple more times or we'd plan it together or something. The next day he came in. He's like, "Okay, I signed us up." And I was like, "Okay."
What?
Yeah.
So wait, was that your all's first date?
Yeah.
Was going skydiving?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, what a first date. You can't even top that. That's about as cool as it gets. That's awesome. So wait, how was skydiving? Was it horrifying? I've never been skydiving. I've always wanted to go. Something I just haven't gotten around to doing. How was it?
It was really
yeah.
fun.
I think it was both our second time.
It was both our second time because But I would honestly say that bungee jumping is scarier. I think skydiving's more beautiful. It's like you don't even feel like you're falling. You're just looking at the horizon. It's gorgeous. But bungee jumping is dear God.
Yeah, really? I haven't done either. I've done some cliff jumping. I've done some pretty gnarly some cliffs, but that's what my buddy that we do we ride together. He skis, so less cool, but we skied or he skis. I used to longboard with him and skate with him back in the day, and he's gone skydiving. He's like, it wasn't scary at all. It was no. Like you're saying, it's just a beautiful view, just looking around at the scenery. So
totally.
I'm excited to try it one day. Where did you guys go bungee jumping, or where did you go bungee jumping?
My first time bungee jumping was in Washington, and it was absolutely gorgeous. But then we went together last year, and it's the tallest bungee jump in the state or in the U.S. Actually, it's here in Central Oregon. I don't know what it's called, but it's outside of Terrebonne, which is where Smith Rock is. There's this big old bridge that, it's the longest bungee jump in the U.S.
Really scary.
Very scary.
Yeah, I've seen some videos. I don't know if this is true, if this is just a tale, but I heard back in the day, one of the smartest guys in the country went bungee jumping. He messed up the bungee jump cord and killed himself doing it. And ever since then, I'm nervous of bungee jumping. If the smartest guy in the world killed himself, I'm definitely not smart enough to go. But no, I'm gonna have to do it one of these days. I mean, that's why we're into extreme sports.
Oh, yeah.
You have to. Yeah, you have to check it off
Technology
the
has
list.
improved.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So wait, how long have you all been married for?
We've been married for just when had our 3rd year anniversary,
Mm-hmm.
and we've been together for 8 years. So we dated for 5, and then we're married for 3.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome, awesome. Any cool like proposal story? How'd you guys? I mean, if your first date was skydiving, I
Yeah,
have to imagine it was something insane.
it's a
But
pretty
how'd you propose?
Let Sarah tell it.
Okay, so Mark was in physical therapy school, and in the summer, Mark is very much a do it person. He can't sit still. He's like ADHD. I want to learn a new thing. I want to always be moving. And so he got done with PT school. I think it was your second year. You got done with
Yeah.
your second year.
Yeah.
And he was like, this summer I want to learn to build a gazebo because he loves woodworking. And I was like, okay, that makes sense because it's Mark. And so he spent all summer building a gazebo completely by himself. Did you even buy a plan or did you like a blueprint?
I found something online.
Yeah, like found something online, bought the wood, worked on it himself. Halfway through, like cut through his hand with a skill saw, had to get stitches, and then continued to build. Like built the roof with one arm. It was absolutely insane. And then by the end of the summer, we had a big dinner there with my grandparents and his parents, and he proposed using the gazebo. Yeah.
That's incredible. That's awesome.
And then later we got married at the gazebo.
No way. So you
Yeah.
guys got married at the, oh, that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Was it a smaller wedding or did you invite a lot of people? Like we are going through the wedding planning right now.
Oh.
I'm engaged. I've been
Congrats.
engaged now for yeah, thank you. I've been engaged for almost 2 years now. So we're finally the wedding's gonna be in September, and so we're going through the whole wedding planning and all that funness. So what was that like? Was it big, small? How was it?
Yeah, we got married during the pandemic, July
Okay.
1st, 2020. And luckily, we're on our own family property outside, and it was a potluck. So we basically told everybody, come if you want to come, don't come if you don't want to. It doesn't like, just do whatever works best for
It
you.
was kind of split. Like you had half the crew there, like with masks on, like sitting
Didn't
in the
want to
back,
touch anyone.
Yeah.
And then,
the other half didn't care.
yeah, and then the other half were doing cake stands by the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we had about 130 maybe,
Yeah.
130 that showed up. So
I mean,
like,
that's a pretty big. That's bigger than my wedding's gonna be. Like we I don't know. We're also not doing it at like any of our properties. We're going to a venue to do it, which is cool, but it does get expensive quickly. So we're like,
yeah.
you know what? We're just gonna invite like tight knit people. So I think we have about 75 people coming, and I think over 50 of them are gonna be like our age range. So it's probably gonna get a little bit rowdy.
that's so
Um,
cool.
Yeah, it'll be a good time. But also, congratulations. I probably should have started the show with this. You guys are growing the family. So
We are.
super super excited to see that. How's it feel? Is it stressful, nerve-wracking? What's the feeling?
I think it's yes. I think it's mostly exciting. We feel like that we've done so much in our life that this is the one thing that we haven't done yet. So we're both very ready for it. I think their stress is mostly financial stress, just because you don't realize how much it costs to not only have a baby, like diapers and wipes, but like physically have a baby. The amount of doctor bills from visits and then the actual birthing process and then the post visits, like it could be anywhere from $4,000 to $20,000 depending on what happens, and that's after insurance. Like,
Yeah.
it is just unreal. So that part is kind of stressful, but the actual having a baby, like, we're both very ready for.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think it's one of those things that it doesn't really, you can't comprehend it. You can't, like, I don't know how to explain it, but until you're holding the baby, you're seeing it, it doesn't really click.
Yeah,
That
sometimes
makes
it
sense.
doesn't feel real.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, was it like something you guys were planning for, or was it kind of like a bit of a surprise? Okay, so we were at least kind of hoping for it.
Yeah, totally. We started trying, and then we are very lucky in the sense that we were able to get pregnant right away, and everything is looking great and healthy. And I think I saw a statistic. It's like 1 out of 3 couples have trouble having kids, and it can take up to 2 years on average. So we
Yeah.
were we're super lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, also I'm not going to say it's because of how healthy you guys are and fit you guys are and care about your, like, just how healthy you guys are. But I have heard multiple studies where it's like, look, the better shape you're in, the better shape you're in when you conceive, the better shape your child's going to be, better chances that it's going to be a smooth process. So hopefully that's all
Totally.
true.
Yes. Yes,
Um,
certainly helped. But I mean, it's just, yeah, the childbearing and is birth is so variable. Like,
Yeah, because you could be all those things and things could still go wrong too. So like
mhm.
our odds are better, but they're not 100%,
for sure.
you know?
For
So
sure.
there's a little nerve-wracking not knowing what could happen, like the health of our child, but we're just hoping for the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you guys come from large families?
I have two sisters and
Okay.
I have one older brother, so no, not really.
Okay, so not yeah. I was gonna say I'm the oldest of five, so like for
wow.
me, yeah, it was like I feel like I already had four kids, and I'm like I don't want kids. I'm in no rush. But as I'm getting older now, I'm like actually it would be pretty fun. So I think it's once you you just start knocking off the milestones, like you're saying, like I got engaged, now I'm getting married, and it's like we have a pet, and it's like oh okay, like I can see how this progresses to wanting to have kids in the not too distant future.
Totally. It does. And like I said, like we've traveled the world together and solo. We've started a business. We've built things. We've just done so much of what we've wanted to do in this life already that if we died tomorrow, the only thing we'd really miss out on is being parents.
Yeah. I mean,
How we
that's awesome. And it's also and I don't know if you guys mind me asking, how old are you all? Am I allowed to ask that on the show?
Oh,
No,
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
35.
35? Awesome. Awesome.
And I just turned 29.
Awesome. Okay, I'm 29 as well. Yeah, that's awesome how much you all have been able to do, see, accomplish in, just a few, what feels like short years. I mean, I'm 29, so I feel like it's only been a few years.
Yeah,
I know it's like a third of my life, but it feels like it's, not too much. And yeah, I kind of agree. I'm in sort of a similar boat where it's like, I guess I got to check off the marriage. I got to actually get married.
Yeah.
But once the marriage is done, yeah, I guess for me too, it's kind of the same thing where it's like, kind of done everything else I want. Really, the only thing I haven't done is grow the family. I've heard so many people that are like, you could have all the money in the world, you could have all the experiences of the world, but the best thing that could ever happen is be able to, be at the dinner table with your family, which is pretty cool.
Totally.
Now, I got to ask you, Mark, just from hearing about your woodworking experience and how handy you are, what's the nursery look like? You have to be building some epic nursery if you got all these skills with woodworking. I assume it's something crazy.
I thank you. I appreciate that. I thought about it. I'll just say that I thought about it. I have so many projects on the docket this summer. Like one with the baby coming in the winter, I have like a bunch of programs that we're trying to create and everything, get our ducks lined in a row. And then I was going to redo our bathroom in about a month, so that's going to take me a while probably, just because I've never done it before. So I ended up buying one on Facebook Marketplace. It was a good deal.
As much as Mark is the king of woodwork, he's also the king of Facebook Marketplace.
That's fair. That's fair. Facebook Marketplace is great.
Sometimes I have to sit down and be like, is this worth my time? Or I could just pay like $50 for this, I'll just get this over with and buy it.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, and also they're going to outgrow it in like a year and a half. So I guess if you're going to keep growing the family, then maybe it makes sense to have some crazy elaborate one. But if it's one or two kids, I don't know. Yeah, $50 does kind of fit the bill. Now, for you, Sarah, how have you been? Obviously, you all are like the king and queens of fitness. So how's it been trying to stay in shape, in healthy? Being able to stay active and fit while being pregnant?
Yeah, so I was already training for a half marathon when we found out that we were pregnant. And so I was like, well, I'm just gonna, my doctor said that all my things that I do is fine as long as I can scale them back as if I feel like I need to. And so when I was 12 weeks pregnant, I ran my half marathon, 13.1 miles, and I felt great. I ran like my fastest time. I ran like a 10-miler practice run at like an 8:30 pace, average pace. And I was nine weeks pregnant at that time. So I felt really good. I feel very blessed for how good I felt during this pregnancy, to be honest. The only thing I really had to give up is soccer. We're both very big soccer people. We've been on the same soccer team, co-ed, for like as long as we've been dating.
Long time.
We've been on a soccer team together. So I had to quit playing soccer at 14 weeks, which is sad, but honestly, it's okay because I still get to go watch him and I still get to be with the community, which is why I love it in the first place. So I still get to be there, which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, but everything else, I'm still doing yoga. I'm still lifting weights. I'm still going on runs, walks. I haven't been longboarding or biking as much. And that's just because it makes me nervous to like fall and like impact, you know? Yeah, so some things are different, but I still get to move my body, so I'm totally happy.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would say the average person that's pregnant is just excited to be going on walks. The fact that you're like, oh, I can't longboard is hilarious. Yeah. That's like you're cutting out on your physical activity is funny.
Yeah.
Now, well, a question on the longboarding, the biking, and like cutting out on like kind of the dangerous activities. What age are you going to let your kid get on the slopes?
Oh, as young as possible.
Baby. Baby.
You know, they're going to be born, and we'll have our Grom board next to them, and a little maybe like a Messi jersey, throwing it to the universe.
No
pressure.
No pressure.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, and I did see. I was obviously checking out your all's website, and so I guess Mark, you're a coach or were a coach or coach certification or something like that. I saw. So was soccer the primary sport growing up, or was it snowboarding?
100% soccer. Yeah.
Okay.
I was a soccer fanatic for sure.
Still is.
Still am.
Still. Yeah. What's your team of choice? Is Messi, is Argentina the team of choice?
You know, I think in the soccer realm, everyone respects Messi the most. I mean, you have to bow. Yeah, he's the GOAT. He's won it all. I think I'm really a fan of Erling Haaland right now.
Me too.
If you don't know, he's the Norwegian striker for Manchester City. And
okay, gotcha. I was gonna say I'd be lying if I was like a huge soccer nerd. I know America's doing good right now, so that's cool.
They just got eliminated, fortunately.
Did they just get eliminated? Okay, see, that shows you how much I know.
Better than what they've been doing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then there's just I follow like players from all over the world. I don't really have a team per se, but I like specific players, and wherever they go, I'll kind of follow them as they move along their careers.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that's sick. Yeah, no, I mean soccer. I regret not doing soccer. I did soccer when I was like a tiny little squirt. I was running around and I was always like super fast. I was, had a bunch of endurance, but I don't know, for whatever reason, I know what reason. I started running in middle school and I was just really fast and I won a lot of races and I was like, I want to do this because I'm good at it. And then, fast forward to college, like, dang, I should have done soccer. It would have been a lot more fun.
Yeah.
But
join the rec league.
Yeah, well, that's what I ended up doing. A bunch of intramural sports is pretty much. I ran for a little bit in college, and then was like, this is. I was running like a D3 school, and it was literally 3 a days. It was a morning long run, an afternoon like sprint workout, and then an evening lift, and then we do study hall. And I was like, this is like 7 hours of my days dedicated to this, and I'm not getting paid. I'm not that good. Like I was good in high school. I'm not good in college.
Yeah.
So ended up deciding to step away from it. But now I guess question for you all, kind of pivoting back to the business, is what has it been like? Obviously, married couple. How has it been being business partners and running a business together? Or I should say being married and running a business together.
Yeah, totally.
I will say that it's not for everyone. It's taken a lot of trial and error. We've learned a lot about one another, especially being together 24/7 for the past 2 or 3 years, basically. To be honest, I don't think a lot of couples could do it. And I'm not gonna go out and say that it's been perfect. We definitely had our ups and downs, but over that time period, we've learned how we both respond to certain stressors and deadlines, and how we respond to requests. We can read each other's body language. We know if this is an appropriate time to approach one another. I've had to learn because I'm definitely not a type A person, but I like a lot of things done the way I like to do them, and I want them done now. But I know it's not fair for me. If I need something done, I can't just say, Sarah, I need this done now. It's like, hey, when you get a chance, can we just sit down and talk about blah, blah, blah. Anyways. And Sarah has a totally different style of working. She's very like deadline oriented. She writes down her list every single day, like every timeline. Day. This is what time we're going to do this. And that's not me. It's like when I feel like it, maybe it might be at 7 a.m. in the morning. It might be at 7 p.m. at night. and then I'll just be on a roll for like 2 or 3 hours,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just not the way she rolls.
Mm-hmm.
So it works really well now, but it's been taking a lot of like trial and error over
Mm-hmm.
time.
And I think what's important is we always said since the beginning that if this becomes an issue for our marriage, that we're going to drop the business in a heartbeat.
Mhm.
We're like, our marriage is more important than the business. And we've had some moments where, like, should we just stop doing this? Because we're like arguing or just frustrated in this situation. But like Mark said, I honestly think that we've become better partners marriage wise because of our business partnership. I think we understand each other a lot more. We're best friends. Like Mark said, like we do see each other 24/7. We play soccer together. We snowboard together. We go on runs together. We live together. Like we're always together. And some people, that would probably drive them crazy,
Mhm.
and that's okay. You don't have to spend all that time with your spouse, but we've just found a way to make it work. He has his time to work, I have my time to work. I work outside in the sunshine and in the hammock and on the couch in Mark's office strictly.
Mhm.
Like we're just very different and it works.
Mhm.
No, I mean that's awesome, and I've seen now once again these are like social media like
Yeah.
videos I've watched, so I don't know if they're real or not, but I've
Yeah.
seen things that say if a couple or like a married couple starts a business together and makes $1 together, that they're like 90% more likely to stay together just because if you can run a business together, you
Whoa.
can easily do a marriage together because running a business is like honestly one of the hardest things you can do. It's
Oh,
very
that's cool.
stressful. So I don't know if that's true. I saw another one that was like 64% of like family run businesses, so like husband and wife businesses doing business together, they like outperformed if it was just like a random non-family like partnership. So once again, these are just like social media things I've seen. I like send them to my fiance, like maybe we should start a business, but
That's awesome.
I don't know if they're actually true. But hey, if it makes you guys feel any better, it sounds like it's
I'll
maybe there's
take it.
something to it.
Yeah,
But
I'll
what
take
is
it.
yeah, but what is your all's career path? Like, how did you guys get to the now where you guys are at doing Mobility Duo? Like, what was the career trajectory for both of you all?
Do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, I studied in undergrad. I studied business, admin, and international business. I worked in as an underwriter in a bank right after school, and really disliked what I was doing. So I bought a one-way ticket to China and ended up backpacking around the world for like 3 years. I took stops here and there. I ended up teaching English. Came back to China and I taught English there for like ten months or something, and then continued on. But over that period of time, I was able to really sit back and reflect on like what I really wanted to do with my life. I think many people would love to have that opportunity, and ultimately it came back to like I had started lifting weights when I was like 15 years old in high school. Like just on the floor with that bar, just doing push-ups and stuff. And I really loved it. And I loved the science and anatomy, and I didn't have any interest in medicine, but this still kind of fit that realm. So physical therapy or naturopathic medicine was kind of my two paths. Unfortunately, naturopathic medicine doesn't really have the support or enough evidence behind it. So I was like, well, in the long run, this is probably where I want to go. So I pursued PT. And that was, gosh, that was like a 5-year endeavor.
Uh-huh.
It was a huge undertaking. So, yeah, it was a lot of risk, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of time.
So much time.
And yeah, I started that when I think it was 25 years old when I first started that. And I didn't graduate PT school until I was almost 30 years old.
Wow.
So it was a long road, a lot of sacrifice, but it all paid off. With the goal of utilizing my degree towards business eventually, because that's ultimately my greatest passion is the business side of medicine, if you want to call it that. Because at the end of the day, medicine is business, but it doesn't have to be like corporatized, like what we see with insurance companies and hospitals. So. But yeah, and then snowboarding had always been there. I'd always done it. I loved it. And the ability to combine either snowboarding or soccer or sports in general with athletes with rehab, fitness, strength, etc. was like a dream come true. And Sarah was kind of the missing piece in that journey. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then for me, I was always an athlete in high school. I did like 3 or 4 different sports. And then when high school stopped, I was like, oh my gosh, like there's no more reason to be active anymore. So that's when I like fell in love with the gym. And then I became a licensed massage therapist. I went to Costa Rica for my schooling, lived there for a little bit. And then after I became a massage therapist, I became a personal trainer, then a yoga instructor. So those are my 3 main qualifications. And then when the pandemic happened, Mark had just graduated PT school, and all my jobs were service based, so they were non essential. And so we kind of were left with nothing. So we moved back in with the in laws for a little while, and we were like, okay, everything is moving online. That's just the way that this is all going. So we need to figure out how to move online. And so we're like, what's really cool about the online world is we can be whoever we want to be. So yeah, you're a doctor of physical therapy. I'm all these 3 accreditations. Like, who is the demographic that we want to serve? And it was snowboarders, because we both love snowboarding. I mean, we both love a lot of things, but like snowboarding is what, I don't know. It resonated with us, and it resonated with a lot of snowboarders. So it kind of just built itself in the beginning. We're like, oh, more snowboarders want more snowboarding things, because we played around. We were like, here are some things for rock climbers, and here are some things for runners, and here are some things for snowboarders, and everyone's like, more snowboarding. So we just kind of built that, and yeah, the rest is history, I guess. Like, that's how we got online.
That's awesome. No, I love that. And how long have you guys been doing Mobility Duo?
We started officially, we thought about the idea on our honeymoon in July 2020. And we sat around a table, and we're thinking of names of like, okay, what can we call it? We still have the paper of like all our names scratched out, like what's available, what sounds the best. And then Mobility Duo was kind of like, we've talked about this before a long time ago, but like that's the one that just clicked. I don't know how to explain it, but it just felt right. It was available. Yeah. And so officially it was registered late July 2020.
Yeah, but we didn't make our first dollar until like 2021.
October 2021.
October 2021.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the process like? Like was it mainly you guys were doing like a bunch of, obviously I assume because I don't know the origin of it. Was it a lot of like social media content, free content, giving away just, hey, here's, yoga exercise and routines and PT you can do if you're injured. And then when was the first dollar made? Like, when was the first time like, holy crap, somebody actually gave us money for something we're doing? Because that had to be a sick feeling.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
It was incredible. Yeah, but the whole year and a half before we made our first dollar, like you said, we would just put out content, and it was not good content, because you're just not good until you get all the practice. Like, you have to do it to learn. And then I followed people who were like telling you like what to do on social media and what not to do and all these things. And it was really helpful, specifically Brock Johnson. I still credit our growth to him, because I just followed all of his structure, and it worked. And then we made our first $20. $20 from Patreon. And I remember when it was on Patreon. I don't even know what we were telling people we would like.
I think at the time it was a mix of like supporting us just as donations, and then also like some behind the scenes content
and stickers
like, and things like that, like what you do when you're first starting out, like basic stuff. And I don't know where one of our followers suggested that we start it.
I think it was Storm.
Yeah.
But we got our first $20, and we were both like, someone is paying us $20 a month to just do this.
Yeah. So
blew our minds.
So cool.
Yeah.
And it just it was a trickle, right? Like trickle system. And then we started thinking outside the box. Okay, like how else can we start creating this in a bigger fashion? Like maybe we start developing a website, or
more of a business.
Somehow we can give this back. Maybe we can start developing programs. Maybe we can start developing like a subscription-based service, products, things like that. And yeah, and during that period of that grind of year and a half or so, like we have to shout out like Tommy Bennett and Jonathan Buckhouse and
Casey
Casey
Willax
Willax. Like they really took us under their wing and really helping us out, like
gave
telling
us
us,
tips.
yeah. And they didn't, beyond that, they didn't do more than that because they were creating their own business and culture and community. But we were kind of in our own pocket within the snowboard realm. Nobody was doing what we were doing in regards to like fitness, yoga, mobility within the snowboarding. So they could only help us out so much. So in that sense, it was great because we could kind of pave our own path and create our own programs and whatever you want to call it. But it was also really challenging. And I still like that mentality of like, yeah, it's fun to get inspiration from social media and websites and stuff. But at the same time, I don't spend a lot of time on it just because I want to be creative and get those juices flowing and see what we can create on our own without getting influenced by other things. Because it's really common on the internet now. People just copy the blueprint over and over and over. And it gets old. And I would rather be, creating authentic and
original.
creating these new, ideas and things that people haven't seen. That could be movements, that could be programs, that could be whatever. So
Yeah. I think my rule of thumb has always been create more than you consume. Because the second you start consuming more than you create, you're no longer a creator. You're no longer, you become a consumer. And I don't think those two mindsets, like for me personally, if I'm in a consumer mindset, I actually feel like I'm not doing anything. I feel a little down. I'm like, I just wasted all this time. Whereas when you spend more time creating, you're putting out efforts. It's just a better process.
Yeah, no, I love that's a great line. Create more than you consume, because that's been. I mean, I've had stretches where I don't even have social media on my phone because I'm like, like I don't really want to deal with it. I don't want to look at it. It does become tricky though, because I've had a few different kind of endeavors that I've done online, and I would say nothing even like a fraction of what you guys have kind of set up online, but every time, the one thing that, and I would be curious just like for your all's advice on how you guys do this. The problem that I have is like, 'cause I don't really like social media. Like I like checking some stuff out. It's fun to see, trends and topics and get some like fun motivation and inspiration. But when I have like right now, when I'm doing this podcast, I want to see what the competition is doing. I want to see how people are promoting, but then it's hard to like not get sucked because it's so addictive. So like I've actually I turn off all notifications. I try not to really look at it ever. So how do you guys balance like being up on the trends, like being able to like put out good content, making sure you're not missing the ball on something and having good edits, but also not just like getting addicted to the YouTube, Instagram rabbit hole that it is?
It's hard. I'll say I run most of the social media platforms. Mark runs YouTube, and I run TikTok, Instagram, and now Threads.
Okay. Oh, nice. You're on Threads. Like I haven't gotten on there yet. I'm like,
I have no idea. But personally, I go in it with the mindset of I'm watching reels or content with the idea of like, okay, what captured my attention in this video? It doesn't even have to be snowboard related. It could just be like, oh, this video captured my attention. Why did it capture my attention? What was it? Was it the text? Was it the quick editing of the splicing of the video? Was it the music? Like, I'm taking those little mental notes. And the second I stop taking those little mental notes is when I'm like, oh, I'm done.
yeah.
At least I try to, because you're right. It sucks you in. It's like, it's dopamine, it's overload.
Yeah.
And so the second I stop kind of breaking down content while I'm consuming it is when I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah. And when you started, because obviously, you've been doing it now for 3 years almost, or a little over 3 years if you started in, actually it's almost exactly 3 years if you started in July 2020. And so you were obviously starting the social media, trying to go online. When you made your first dollar, do you remember like how many followers you roughly had? And when did you say you made your first dollar? Like how many months or years did it take? I think you said, a year and a half to make the first $20? And how big was the presence online at that point?
I think like 15,000, 20,000.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Because it was the following winter that we...
Well, we've kind of like, because we're seasonal, we've every like fall, winter,
we have a boom
huge spike, and then it kind of just tapers off.
or drops off completely.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So I think it was, when was that? 2021. So yeah, that
Probably
must have been like
15.
20K.
Yeah, 20.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wasn't too much.
and that's, I mean, I'll say that's cool to hear, because I will say, like, in past ventures I've done, I'll get up to whatever 5,000-10,000 followers on whatever platform I'm kind of pushing at the time, and I mean, I don't see a dollar. I've never really, I mean, I've made a few dollars online from other things, but I think it's good for people to hear, like, you have to get to, some people, yeah, you're going to see people online and they claim they hit it big in like a week. I've never met somebody that's done that. So I think it's good for people to hear that you had 20,000 freaking subscribers before you made $1. And it was also a year and a half worth of work. And what was your like posting schedule? How often were you getting online and posting? Because I'm sure it wasn't just like a passive do it once a week type activity, right?
No, it's every day.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
post once every day.
We were up to twice a day at one point.
We were up to twice a day at one point. And it's
Wow.
you have to find something that is sustainable for you, because once a day is not sustainable for everyone. I know, like, Brock Johnson, the person who we kind of like learned from, posts like 4 or 5 times a day, and that's sustainable for him.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, we tried to do 2 a day, and we were like, nope, this is not sustainable. This is so much mental work. Like, 1 a day is enough. And in the summer months, we actually do less. Like, we'll do every other day or once every 3 days, because, like Mark said, we don't get a ton. Like, the summer doesn't make or break us. It's like our people who are here,
Yeah.
and we put out content that they can learn from or be motivated by. But we're not really in a growing state. Whereas when we're in a growing state, it's like every day, like clockwork. Everything is to the 9. Like, yeah.
There are followers who have 1 million followers and
yeah.
don't make that much money.
Yes.
There are followers who have 10,000 followers and are millionaires. It's social media at the end of the day. Like, the growth doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
Doesn't.
It's a tool to create the community that you want. But with that tool you can do whatever you want with that. But you need to think outside the box. The people that are making money a lot of times on these social media accounts many times are marketing a how-to booklet or subscription on how to make a social media. And it's, I'll just stop there. Like, you can do with that what you will. Like, but at the end of the day, like, whatever your niche is, you need to think outside the box and think in the business terms of how can I utilize this amazing tool, this incredible community that you've created, to be able to monetize that, to give back or keep the lights on, so to speak.
Yeah. I also think that, like, people, even our family, is like, how do you guys make money? Because everyone thinks that Instagram pays us. Instagram does not pay us. You do not get all these followers and all of a sudden get money, like Mark was saying.
Yeah.
I think TikTok might do that, but it is cents.
Yeah.
Like 0.00001 cent per view. Like, it is nothing. So like Mark said, you have to have a business mindset. We got really lucky. We had a mentor early on. What's his name?
Oh,
Ben.
Yeah.
Ben. Ben, he was like, okay, that's great that you guys want to grow, but what are you selling? And we were like, what do you mean, what are we selling? He was like, well, if you want to be a business, like, you have to have a product. And we were like, oh, like, Mark probably already knew that, but for me, I was like, I just want to grow and help snowboarders. Like, I don't know. And then it just became multiple revenues. Like, we have our Snoga membership, which is a monthly membership that they get new classes every week. And it's just, there's a database and blah, blah, blah. And then Mark did his Shred 3.0 program, which is like a strength training program. We have yoga mats now with snowboards on them that we sell. We have merchandise. We've done modeling. We've done, I don't know. What was the one in Utah we just did? Or Tahoe? Ergonomic assessments for this giant company. Like, it has led us in so many different realms that we couldn't even imagine, really. It's just kind of come together.
That's awesome. No, now, when did Mobility Duo become, like, or actually I should ask this, is that your all's primary source of income right now? Is probably actually what I should start the question with. Is that the primary source of income that you guys are living off of?
Yeah, I think this is our second year of that.
So, I was working in home health prior when we first moved to Central Oregon. part-time or as needed. And then I just slowly kind of weaned myself off. And it's been about a year since I've worked in home health, so where this has been our primary source of income. Very scary, but very motivating at the same time.
Yeah. So what was the moment like when you're like, holy crap, I never have to go back? And then maybe there hasn't been this moment yet, but like, what was the like realization? Like, I don't have to go get like a 9 to 5 job. Like, I can do this, and I can at least keep the lights on and pay the bills and have food on the table. What was that moment like? And can you kind of walk me through what it felt like?
You know, I don't know if I've ever really had that moment yet because Sarah and I are hustlers. You know, we've been wheeling and dealing since we were in middle school. Whether that
True.
was selling gum from our locker or selling airheads from Costco, or I'm sure Sarah was she was like, selling livestock on
Oh
the
yeah, I
farm.
was selling livestock my whole life.
So it's hard for
Really?
us to like sit still. Like even now, like even if we have mobility to do, I'm selling stuff on like Facebook Marketplace, or I'm making something and selling it. Sarah's
Mm.
working at OTF. Like I'm coaching part time. Like there's just I haven't really had time to sit back and be like, wow, this is really really amazing. I don't know if that will ever happen, to be honest.
Yeah,
You know.
that's
So
That's
true.
hilarious.
yeah.
Well, I don't know. At least for me, being on the outside looking in, like, and it is. I've done like a bunch of cool stuff in my days. Of I've started a business with my brother. I've got rental properties. I got. I think y'all deserve. You should tonight. You should guys cook up a steak and sit back and be like, "Holy crap, we got a pretty cool life. Like, we did some pretty cool stuff."
Totally.
Yeah,
That's
no, I mean, because it is sick.
There's moments where like we're working or like whenever we have a big package that comes in and we have to like ship out all the yoga mats that were
Mm,
pre-ordered or whatever. We're doing that all day, and usually those days we're like, this is our life.
mm,
Like this is our business. Like we're doing
Yeah,
this, and so, like those moments are really cool.
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, but
that's
like Mark
awesome.
said, for the most part, we just don't stop.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get it. I'm a bit of me and my fiance are both like workaholics. It's I understand the grind. I understand the grind. So I guess kind of transitioning to like what even is the business that you're all running. So I know you mentioned Snoga. What is Snoga?
Yeah, Snoga is yoga for snowboarders, but we do have some skiers in the program. No hate. Um, and it's basically like we've had it for a while now. There's over like 200 classes. It's a database of classes, both yoga classes for snowboarders, and then also 20-minute at-home workouts for snowboarders by Mark, who's a doctor of physical therapy. So like it's just quality stuff. It's really cool right now. We're revamping the website. So right now everything's kind of in chronological orders. Like you can scroll down and you can find a video for certain grabs, or you can find a video for if you have whiplash, or just so many different things related to our sport. But now we're gonna have it to where you can search like, oh, I want a 15-minute video for my neck, or I want a
Mm,
30-minute video for my low back, or like it's
mm,
because we have such a database, it's
mm.
becoming we're revamping it to make it searchable. Anyways, that's Snoga. That's our member. Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah,
That's
so you
awesome.
get like 3 classes a week, so 12 classes a month, and you pay month to month.
Okay, got it. And now, like for me, I've done like this much, like a very small amount of yoga in my life. When I was like a runner, the coaches would like once a season be like, "We're gonna do yoga today, guys. It's gonna be sick." And then like I would be like sore the next day. So like,
Yeah.
if you've never done yoga before, can you do Snoga? Like, how is it hard for somebody that's never done yoga before to get into it and be able to like participate in the classes that you're putting on?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's very beginner friendly, and I
Yes.
say that not because it's easy, but because I don't say like now downward dog, now shavasana, now like I'm not saying like the pose and we're going into the pose. I lead every single movement. So instead of being like come up into a tree pose, I'm like, okay, we're gonna stand tall, and then we're gonna bring our foot to our inner thigh, and now we're gonna try to hold this here. So like it's very broken down, almost like yoga for dummies. But it's the way I process it too. Like when I
Yeah.
go to a yoga class, even doing yoga for like 10 plus years, sometimes I go to a yoga class and they say a pose and I'm like, what is that? I have to like look around and like see what everyone's doing, like, even now. And so I try to make it very approachable. I'm also not a like yoga power Nazi. Like there's some yoga classes I go to, I'm like, this is a workout. This isn't, to me, that's not yoga. I like my yoga practice to be breath focused and like moving. I like to say moving through molasses. So like moving controlled. So you're building strength and getting that mobility at the same time. But they're usually typically a little bit more slower pace. Slower pace and approachable.
Got it. Nice. And now I will say, like, once again, for someone like me, I don't have like, I literally have like a carpet in my like room.
Yeah.
Like, do I need a yoga mat? Like, if I wanted to get into Snoga, do I need a yoga mat? Like, any equipment I need at the house to be able to like get into the game of Snoga?
Yeah, honestly, you don't need one. Like if you
Towel.
a towel, carpet, rug, blanket, like whatever, because it's just not comfortable on the knees because we are on hands, feet, and knees a lot. And so like just being on hardwood wouldn't be very comfortable. So I like having a yoga mat because it's like my dedicated space, you know? But I tell people all the time, like you can buy like a $10 yoga mat at, you know, some cheap store, whatever. You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be expensive. But when you really get into it, you really realize the difference quality of a cheap mat versus a nice mat, and like the grippiness, the padding, the durability, how long it lasts, like you notice the difference.
And I'll also say, like, because Sarah and I have been in and out of gyms and like home gyms, corporate gyms, whatever, we're very empathetic with utilizing and creating programs that don't require a bunch of fancy equipment. Now, this is not just you know, applied to Snow, but this is applied to all our programs. We try to put ourselves in someone's shoes who doesn't have that ability to go to like a 24-hour fitness or a Gold's Gym or whatever. Like, we try to make minimal equipment required while still getting similar results. It's easy to create programs when you have all the latest and greatest gear and gym equipment, but it's really hard to do when you need to be creative and think outside the box.
Which is why we make products like we've made our yoga mat, but then recently we made like a off mountain training kit, which is just two things. It's this foam pad that we use all the time to balance on, and it's like it's worse than a pillow. Like you can stand on a pillow and you can kind of find your balance, but this thing makes your ankle like do this the whole time. And so it's one of those, and then mini bands with our logo because we use those a lot too. So like we kind of preach that you don't have to have all the equipment in the world. You know, you just moving your body on a yoga mat or with these small things can make a huge difference versus being sedentary.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's awesome. Now, for the Snoga specifically, for like these yoga classes, are they something where like I need to be in person with you? Is it you're leading at like, and I join the class at a certain time? Or are they pre-recorded? I do it at my own pace. Like, what do they look like if I wanted to join a class, a Snoga class?
Yeah, so each class is live, but every class is recorded. And so I have my people who come every week to the live classes because the time works for them. And then I have my people who message me and they're like, "Oh, I did the pre-record or I did the recording." And they can't get there in the time frame, so they do the recording, which is how we've created such a database.
Nice, nice. And also, like a little bit like aside from it, I saw that it's trademarked. That's so freaking cool. What was the process like of trademark? I've never trademarked anything in my life. What was that process like?
This guy.
It was honestly pretty straightforward. We worked with obviously an attorney who specializes in that realm, and you know, you just kind of explain what it is and what you're utilizing it. And there's many different categories in the trademark world. So figuring out, okay, like within this category, we're trademarking it for these specific things. So ours is like yoga and fitness and like one other. But yeah, we have several terms that are trademarked and patented.
Yeah, we have a patent. We have a
Really?
Yeah.
On what? That's sick.
On a snowboard yoga mat.
The technology that we use on our snowboard yoga mats. Yeah.
Really? That is so
like,
cool.
having a board with all the grabs and everything on the mat, like that's like ours.
Interesting. And so what is it the mat like showing the positions of which you need to go like put like hand and foot placement? Is that the patented part of it?
That's the
Hmm.
patented part. Yep.
That's so cool. That's
And
awesome.
that is across like we made sure to cover those bases as far as like if someone wanted to change it up and maybe put like a Velcro or something, like we covered all those bases. So essentially, if you have any type of board or ski with a grab next to it, that is our patent basically.
Hmm.
So
Very cool. Look at y'all go. That is so cool. Now, I guess another question, because obviously Snow Guy Saw I was obviously checking out the website. That seems to be a huge thing that you guys have and do, and obviously it's all over your all social media. I also
Yeah.
saw something about Shred 3.0. What is Shred 3.0?
Okay. This guy, there was first a shred, and then there was a shred 2.0, and we are constantly bettering ourselves, which is why we're redoing the Snoga page, which is why we've had so many things of shred. Mark has put in so much work to this shred 3.0. It's absolutely insane. I don't think it can get better. I actually don't think we'll ever make another shred because this is like the
Well,
creme de
we'll
la
see.
creme. Yeah, but go ahead. You can talk about it.
Yeah, so just like Sarah said, we not only develop our programs, we also Sarah and I we develop our like our outlook, our opinions, our we find new evidence with our
Hmm.
approach towards training, and that's exactly what Shred is it's a culmination of everything that we've learned, either from evidence-based practice, from experience, or from requests from current Shred or Snoga users, and kind of package this up in this new polished product. So essentially, Shred is specific towards snowboard athletes, but it can be utilized with any type of athlete, more likely the snow athlete in general. But essentially, we utilized a triphasic approach, which basically was created by a gentleman, but there's it's progressive overload, which is if for those of you who don't know what that is, it basically means constantly stressing a muscle or tissue so it can adapt over a period of time. Now you can do this in many different ways. This just happens to be one of those ways. And triphasic training is if you're looking at a sprinter or like Adrian Peterson, the famous football player, he was so amazing because he could cut so quickly and move in a different direction. So use an example of if I'm stepping to the left, I'm cutting, I'm slowly lowering my left leg. So that's the eccentric contraction, lowering that. I pause, there's the isometric contraction, and then I'm exploding back into the other direction, which is what we all know as that concentric contraction. It's the sexy, bench press or squat fast or whatever you want to call it. So we utilize that principle in 2 week increments, going through multiple routines. So we'll do 2 weeks of eccentric movements, 2 weeks of isometrics, 2 weeks of concentrics. We take that growth, now we implement that into a power phase. So now we're creating that explosiveness. And then once we get closer to the season, we then transfer into a peaking or a specialized. So now we get into like the really nitty gritty specialized snowboarding movements that I've created, that I feel deem most appropriate for snowboarding. That we've blasted on social media. We take all those sweet movements and we package them up really nicely.
Together.
There are I think there's like 20 plus different routines, so we're constantly switching it up. 200 plus exercises, so many videos. Within this, we also incorporate aerobic and multi-directional speed and agility training, and that progresses over a period of time. And then what I'm really proud of is I created what I call these play sessions. And essentially what it is, it's a combination of gymnastics, balance, bar hanging, and kind of animalistic primal mobility movements into different sessions every week. And, we're just doing a variety of movements just to stress our tissues in different ways because injuries happen in a matter of seconds. So we don't want to be in a compromised position where our bodies have never experienced these drastic movements, these sudden changes. When those things happen, we're ready. We've already experienced those things, so it's not out of the blue. So it's just moving our body in ways where we don't really do as adults anymore. You see a child, you say, "Hey, go grab a drink for me." They're doing cartwheels the entire way there. They're doing barrel rolls on the way back. Adults don't do that anymore, and that tends to lead to injury. So it's just it's very like it's this holistic approach to training that I have yet to see in an average routine. You might see this in a professional setting or a semi-professional or collegiate setting where they're doing this and they have the time, but I have yet to see this in a home program that is friendly, that you can do in a home, or you can take this into a gym. And again, we go back to that. I tried to make this like approachable, so we're not using like crazy machines like Smith machines or Bosu balls or like TRX machines that frankly rarely do people have in their home. We're using like a single kettlebell, or maybe you have some dumbbells, and maybe you don't. We can use a couple of milk jugs with cement or water. We can fill a backpack up with, some heavy items around the house. Like use a cooler to jump on and off. Like it doesn't have to be fancy, but you can still get similar results.
That's
Sorry.
awesome. That was
long-winded.
that was quite the explanation. I love it. Now, I guess for me, I wouldn't say prior to this conversation, I would have thought I was, big fitness into working out. Now I feel like a beginner. So what if I'm a beginner to working out with this program? Like, will I be able to keep up, or will I need to like work my way into being able to handle a program like this?
Yeah, so we do provide videos for every single movement, in regards to the workout itself, to the multi-directional, speed and agility, to the play sessions. I will say, beginners, it will be more challenging. I'm not going to lie to you. And maybe this isn't the place to start, right? But everything can be adapted. So, and I try to give an alternative to every movement at the end of the video to modify it. So let's say I'm doing something like a clean and jerk with a single kettlebell. You don't have to use a kettlebell, first of all, and anyone can squat down. I have a video on how to perform Olympic lifts properly. I'm not an expert by any means, but anyone can grab a dumbbell, a light dumbbell, bring it up to their shoulder in a squat position, and then push it up. You don't have to do it quickly. You don't have to do it heavy. You don't have to do it with explosiveness, but you can do it slowly. You can still get similar results. So yeah, I'll just say everything can be adapted. I encourage beginners to move in different ways and put themselves out of their comfort zone. But I also will be realistic in saying that, yeah, it'll be challenging for a beginner athlete.
Yeah, what's cool about Shred 3.0 is it's 12 weeks in total, and if you purchase it, you have it for life. Mm-hmm. And so you can go through it the whole 12 weeks and do everything kind of with modifications, maybe a little bit lighter, maybe not, whatever. And then you can go back and do it again. And we also give challenges. You can make it harder. You can do it, you can do it as many times as you want. Because it's so diverse in its training, like Mark said, there's so many different kinds of training styles within this program that you're getting that variety that you need, and you can make it as difficult or as easy as you'd like.
And to finalize your question, Chris, we get questions like that all the time, like, hey, I'm a beginner, is this appropriate for you? And I'll be honest, like, your workouts don't need to be fancy. Like, you could literally, at home, do push-ups, air squats, wall sits, lunges, and get fantastic results as a beginner. Again, carry something heavy and perform the same movement. Once you get the feel for that and you feel comfortable and you're doing it consistently, then maybe you can spend a little bit of money and invest in a more experienced or advanced program. The last thing I would want, and we've had this happen, is someone buy the program, realize, hey, maybe this isn't for me, maybe it's too much, or I never even used it. I'm more than happy to give that person a refund, because it's the last thing I want. I know that's like the age-old principle of gyms is, 70% of people don't ever show up to the new gym membership. But I hate that concept, and I think that's the million-dollar question of, like, how can you motivate someone to actually follow through with a gym membership or a gym program? And that's like the forever journey that trainers go through. So,
yeah, I mean that's awesome. I mean both the Snoga, the Shred 3.0. I was checking out your site. Obviously, like the yoga mats and everything. I didn't even know there's a freaking patent on them. That's sick. But it's been a blast having you all on. If people want to learn just to consume some of your all's content, or want to actually go and try Shred 3.0, or get a yoga mat, or try some yoga for snowboarding, Snoga, where can they find you? Where can they check you guys out?
So we're Mobility Duo on every single platform: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and then our website is mobilityduo.com. So it's pretty easy. It's all across the board. Mobilityduo.com, if you want to really get into what we offer, is probably the best place to check out all of our programs, our yoga mats, and everything like that. But if you're just wanting to be like, not quite there yet, just want to see the content, Instagram is by far our biggest content like platform that we are constantly on. Everything else is like, yeah, you can't spend the same amount of time on every platform. It's just impossible. So Instagram is our biggest.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, that's how I found y'all. Shout out to Connor Johnson, actually the one that put me on to you guys. Like, I know that you're like, I was like hurting my knee, like, because when I was doing snowboard instructor, he's like, you need to check out this page and start doing some of these like little routines and workouts. So yeah, everybody go check them out on all the platforms. Check out the website, but the Instagram is where I found y'all, and you guys do put out actually like really great content, and it's something that like I'm part of that demographic that comes to y'all in the winter. I'm like, all right, I'm getting hurt. I need to see what I'm doing wrong. So no, I appreciate y'all doing this, and I appreciate y'all coming on. It's an absolute blast having you guys on the podcast. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for having us.
Well, thank you so much for checking out this episode of Chris's Secret Podcast. Once again, I'm impressed that you found it, and I hope you enjoyed it. Remember, you can check out all of our episodes on either Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. We release new videos every single Monday, so make sure that you follow and subscribe so you can stay up to date with all of our new podcast episodes that are coming out. Also, don't forget, if you're on YouTube, hit that notification bell so that you can be notified anytime we drop a new video. Also, we put out clips from the podcast. I try to put out clips, every once in a while, a few times a week, so that if you don't want to sit through a full hour-long episode, you can find them in more digestible sizes. And so you can find those shorts on YouTube. They're also on Instagram and finally TikTok. So I really appreciate you coming and checking out this episode. And remember, figure out some ways to make some passive income so I can see you out on the slopes or on the pickleball courts. Until next time, peace, y'all.